looking at the Artemis II rocket and spacecraft at Launch Pad 39B at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. Teams concluded a wet dress rehearsal early this morning. Today, we'll discuss the test and next steps. Welcome and thank you for joining us today live from the Space Coast of Florida. We are joined this afternoon by several NASA managers to share more details about how the test went and what's up next. They are Amit Kshatriya, NASA Associate Administrator, Dr. Lori Glaze, Moon to Mars Program Manager, Charlie Blackwell Thompson, Artemis Launch Director, and John Honeycutt, Chair of the Artemis II Mission Management Team. We'll have some brief opening remarks, and then we'll take your questions from both those of you here in the room and on the phone. And a reminder for those on the phone, you can get into the question queue by pressing *1. And with that, we'll start with Amit.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and really a big thanks to the media for helping bring the world this incredible mission. We're happy to join you as quickly as we can, coming off of the test last night. When I reflect on where we are today, I think about the team, the hands on the hardware, the countless hours of the challenges overcome, all the teamwork that has brought us to this point. I'm very, very grateful and proud of the team for doing that. I know the administrator shares that. The wet dress rehearsal we had last night was a critical milestone on the way to Artemis II. That was the reason we went to the pad, was to do this test. It allowed our teams to test all the systems required in the all-up configuration. I think it's clear based on what we saw in real time, we're now targeting no earlier than a March for Artemis II launch. The Artemis II astronauts have been released from quarantine this morning. They remain in Houston. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to every team member who worked tirelessly on the wet dress rehearsal and all the critical steps that brought us to this point. Really, I mean, it was an incredible effort from so many people to get to this point. Their dedication, expertise, and perseverance has paved the way for us to enter a new launch window. Every challenge that all of you overcame and every detail you perfected led us here, and this milestone is a testament to your incredible work. We're going to review all the data as expected. We just got off console. Charlie got off a little bit later than the rest of us, but we'll review the data, address the items we saw during the wet dress that need future work, and we'll set another series of integrated tests as we go forward, and we'll gather everything we need, and we'll update you as soon as we can. I also want to personally extend my gratitude to this team here. We're missing some of the key team members, but they did just an incredible job getting through that test last night. We had challenges throughout, but the way they managed themselves with poise and dignity and got as much data as we could while the vehicle was in the test configuration, really just a phenomenal job. So really, really grateful to them, and I'd like to hand it over to Dr. Glaze to give you the real details.
Great. Thank you so much, Amit. And I'd also like to thank you all, those that are here in the room and those online. Thank you so much. You saw the image of the rocket out of the pad. Those of you that are here have been out there and seen it out there, and I can just say the excitement is just really building. You can feel it in the air when we're out here, when we're near the rocket. It really is spectacular. As Amit said, the wet dress rehearsal is an essential part on our path to flying our 4 crew members, Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy, around the moon and bringing them home. I can tell you that I was conversing with our commander, Reed Wiseman, as we went through wet dress yesterday and following. I know that Amit and the administrator also spoke with the commander, and so we've been staying in constant communication so that they know where we are and that we're all together on this as we are moving forward with our plans. I'd just like to say a couple of words about the wet dress. We really did learn a lot from the Artemis I mission, and we implemented a lot of the lessons learned yesterday through wet dress. And I would say many of those were demonstrated very successfully. And then we were able to actually gain additional data as we were going through the rehearsal. Myself, I know when I went in, I had 3 big things that I really wanted to make sure we were getting data on. And I would say all 3 of those, we did a fantastic job of gathering the important data that we need. First off, everyone's aware of some of the challenges with the hydrogen tanking from Artemis I, and we had made some changes. And I would say the fact that we got to full tanking yesterday on the first try was tremendous success, and we gathered an enormous amount of data on the processes and how we want to go forward with that in the future. So I think that was a huge success for us. Another area that I was really focused on was there's the purge barrier that we do the nitrogen purge we have done in the past, nitrogen purge between the crew module and the LAS. And we tried something new yesterday, and I really wanted to make sure that we gathered data on how that was working. That'll inform how we perform that in the future to keep the crew and the support staff that are in the white room, keeping them safe as we load the crew, and we got a lot of data there. Fantastic. And then the third area that I was really focused on is, closing those doors, closing the hatches on the crew module and the launch abort system is a challenging process. It's very complex, a lot of steps. It's a big deal, and the more times we can practice that, the better. And I think we, again, got another rep yesterday. Our team's got some more work there. They've learned. We've, again, gathered a lot of important information that's going to help us as we're going forward. Of course, we also identified some additional issues, and we will be tackling those. They tackled them last night. The team did an amazing job. I want to thank Charlie for her incredible leadership. But Charlie and her teams and John and all of our teams that were involved with the wet dress yesterday tackled a variety of challenges in real time and did a great job there. As we've done all along, we rely on the data that we collect through these exercises like the wet dress rehearsal, and it's that data that leads us and sets the pace for where we're going. We have another opportunity in front of us to test our tanking operations and countdown. As Amit says, we will do another wet dress rehearsal in the future, and we look forward to that additional opportunity to learn more about our systems before we launch our crew to the moon. So we got a lot more work to do to get ready for that mission, and we are ready. Our teams are ready. Those incredible individuals that Amit noted, they are geared up and ready to take us forward. I'll hand it over to Charlie.
All right. Thanks, Lori. Appreciate it. And thanks to everyone who is here with us today, either in the room or online. So you heard Amit and Lori both talk about our wet dress rehearsal. So we got into our call to stations on Saturday evening and had our plan T0 for yesterday. Got into our go for tanking. We were a little bit behind getting out of the pad, and we got to go for tanking right around 11:30 local time. Got into chill down for both LOX and hydrogen. That went very well. Nothing notable there per the timeline, per the plan. When we got into the LH2 fast fill, which was around 12:29, is when we picked up our first leak in the TSMU in the cavity, which is where the flight and the ground plate come together, and it's that cavity in between. And it's in our 8-inch fill and drain line there. We have a QD that kind of connects those two together. So it was similar, I would say, to some of the signatures that we've seen during Artemis I. Our leak rate was a little bit higher, somewhere in around the, I would say, 12 to 14%. As you know, we went back, we did some testing between Artemis I and Artemis II, and determined that 16% was an appropriate leak limit for LH2 in that cavity, and so that's what we managed to yesterday. So we saw the leak get up around our limit, and we did a stop flow revert, and when we did that, we saw, of course, the leak came down. We tried a contingency procedure that we used during Artemis I, which is you let that QD warm up, you let the seal warm up, and you try it again. And so we did that a couple times, worked our way through it, and was able to load the core stage all the way to replenish. LOX load went for both core and upper, went really without any issue at all. And we got both stages to replenish, all stages replenish about 17:44 local time yesterday. We worked through a couple things. We had a targeted T0 originally for after 9 p.m. in the evening, but given the contingency procedures and whatnot, we had a new targeted T0 at just after midnight, and we picked up the count, T-minus 10 minutes. We counted through our, got through our polls, picked up the count, counted through 6 minutes. Of course, the crew access arm comes back at 8. That was a big milestone for us, first time we'd ever done that in terminal count with the ground launch sequencer. So a big win on that. It came back just fine, latched into place just like it's supposed to. And we got down inside the 6 minutes, and that is where we began core stage pressurization. And so as we began that pressurization, we did see that the leak within the cavity came up pretty quick. We did a cutoff, which is a normal safing activity for us. We got into our safing steps. We saw the hydrogen concentration come down, and then later in the evening, we got into our drain operations. I am happy to report that early this morning, we had the core stage drain was completed at about 6 o'clock, just after 6 this morning, and right now we have all commodities off the vehicle. Both stages, both commodities are drained. We are in core stage boil off and in inerting activities, and we're getting the pad open back up for control work. So that's a little bit of how the test went. Lori talked about some of the great things that came out of the test. I'll tell you, we had never loaded the core stage or the upper stage from the new 1.4 million gallon hydrogen sphere. We had gone through a complete verification and validation, but we didn't have the hardware to do it with, the flight hardware. And so that went really well. The lessons learned from how we do the sequencers in the software also went well yesterday. Already talked about locks and the CAA. And then the replenish valve. Those of you who were around for Artemis I, remember we had to send a red crew to the pad for the replenish valve, and we made some design modifications on that valve, and it worked flawlessly yesterday. And so that went really good. Lori talked about the breathing air injection that we had for the service module purge, and that was a late mod that we did. Again, worked really well while we had the closeout crew out at the pad, and we were able to do a full closeout of the crew module. So all in all, a very successful day for us on many fronts, and then on a couple of others, we got some work we got to go do. And we're going to go do it. We'll figure it out, and we'll be back here talking to you once again about when we're going to target our next wet dress and the results from that. And with that, I'll hand it over to John.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, so this is the first opportunity for us to get the integrated stack for Artemis II on the launch pad with all the systems working together and see it loaded full of the oxidizer and the fuel and get to the countdown operations. It was a great demonstration for the hardware and for the team relative to performance. To me, the big takeaway was we got a chance for the rocket to talk to us, and it did just that. Test gave us exactly what we needed. It was an opportunity for us to wring out the system as well as the team before we ask our crew to go fly on launch day. I'm always particularly proud about the rigor that our teams put into reviewing the data. They stay hungry all the time, and I've been talking to some of them on the phone this morning about looking at data and what we're looking for and just sharing some thoughts there. Going to the MMT was in place ahead of tanking operations, providing guidance to the launch director at our planned checkpoints that included the tanking operations as well as the go for terminal count. We also provided guidance on a couple other points, which I would say were minor risk acceptance items along the way. And that's, that's the big part of what the MMT does is provides risk assessment and approves risk or not. And finally, I'll wrap it up by saying I fully support the agency's decision and the plan we've got moving forward. Rachel, back to you.
All right, it's time now for questions. We'll start here in the room, and then we have several already waiting in our question queue on the phone. Another reminder for those on the phone, you can get into the question queue with *1. And with that, let's start over here with Marcia Dunn.
Hello, Marcia Dunn, Associated Press. 3 years seems like a long time, enough time to wring out any hydrogen leak problems. Why wasn't there more aggressive testing checks since Artemis I? And sorry, I'm just losing my thought here. If you could just explain how you can still be having the same problem 3 years later. Thanks.
Yeah, so in my old job as the course or the SLS manager, after Artemis I and the challenges we had with the leaks, we took a pretty aggressive approach, as Charlie mentioned, to do some component level testing with these valves and the seals, and try to understand their behavior and their tolerance for surface finish and FOD or debris or scratches or something like that, right? And so we got a good handle on that relative to how we install the flight side and the ground side interface there. But on the ground, we're pretty limited as to how much realism we can put into the test. And then at the end of the day, and what I would say to that is, we try to test like we fly, but this interface is a very complex interface, and when you're dealing with hydrogen, it's a small molecule, it's highly energetic, and we like it for that reason, and we do the best we can. And actually, this one caught us off guard, and the initial things that we were seeing, and the technical team felt like we either had some sort of misalignment or some sort of deformation or debris on the seal.
I would just add that to Marcia's point, we did make some changes, while not to the cavity itself that John was explaining, but we did make some changes to several of the hydrogen components. I talked about the replenish valve. We had a leak there. We did a design mod. It worked great. We also made some changes. If you remember from Artemis I, we also had changes in what I would call the back of the plate, in the purge can and in the debris plate. We changed the flex hose design that comes into the back of that plate. We took the way that some of the hardware was mounted and made it hard welds into the plate. We also took off some of the things that had a cantilevered load. That was some improvements we made during Artemis I, but we did make overall improvements to the ground side of the plate, and we did not see any hydrogen leaks there yesterday. So those two areas were things that were lessons learned from Artemis I that were incorporated, and they tested out really well yesterday. And it was the first chance we got to do that test in this environment.
Okay, we'll go behind Marcia to Bill Harwood.
Thanks very much. Bill Harwood, CBS News, with three very quick but related questions. And I know you can't answer them, but I'm going to ask them anyway. What is the earliest you think you could do another WDR? I know that's an open question. If a rollback is ultimately required for whatever reason, would that rule out the March window? And finally, if the original leak you saw during fast fill, hydrogen fast fill, has showed up on launch day, and you got the tanks filled using your technique, and you never had that problem when you pressurized the tank, would you have been good to go with the original leak, or was that we're out of here no matter what on launch day? Thanks.
I'll let you answer the last one first. I'll take.
So where would we have been on launch day? If we were able to use our contingency procedures and we had launch window left, and we haven't gone and done the deep dive on all the timelines to see exactly where we would have landed, but certainly if we were within our parameters for launch day, within our allowable 16%, and you had not had the issue when you pressurized during terminal count, you would have been within your launch commit criteria and certainly could have been go for launch.
Yes, I'll take a couple of the other ones there. The first question about the second wet dress rehearsal. We are, a few hours off of completing the wet dress from yesterday. Our teams have a lot of data they need to assess. We need to put together what the plan is and the various tests in addition to wet dress. What else do we want to do between now and then? So there's a variety of things that need to be taken into consideration. So at this time, I don't have a date for when that will be, but we certainly will let you know as soon as it gets scheduled. I'll make sure everybody knows. I don't expect it'll take us too long to get to that point, but we are still in the process of assessing the data that we collected yesterday and developing the plan. We do believe that we do have contingency pad access now available to us, and that it appears at this point that the work that's in front of us can be conducted out at the pad, and that's what we anticipate. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Charlie.
So I would say a couple things, right? During Artemis I, we found out that we can do some work on these plates at the pad. Now, I had hoped that we did not have to demonstrate that again for Artemis II, but we showed that we can go do this work at the pad and be ready for launch. And so that's I would say the first order of business this afternoon when we're done here is for the team to start looking at what that would take and how we'd get into that configuration. Of course, as Lori said, we'll let the data drive us in terms of what the work is in that cavity. But we'll start putting that plan together today. So that's the first part is I think, yes, we can do that out at the pad. The other is that we do have contingency pad access. We developed it for a reason, and that was so that we could do our FTS reset for our clock with the range. And so we have that equipment available to us, and we have it laid into our nominal plan should we need to bridge launch periods between 17 and 18.
All right, we'll go here in the front row, and then we'll go to a few on the phone.
Hi, everybody. I'm James, our local reporter at Channel 6. So given that you're waiting one more month at least until launch, how's the pressure feel amongst yourselves to finally fly the crew, get them around the moon, especially considering the administration wants to land on the moon in just 2 years? Thank you.
Sure. I mean, we feel the pressure to make sure that we're listening to the machine and we're doing the right thing for the crew. I would tell you that we put that pressure on ourselves to be successful, but we don't feel any schedule pressure on this particular subject, specifically for Artemis II, other than the learnings we're going to get from flying SLS and Orion again. There's not, from the production side, there's not particular components that we're waiting on to process the Artemis III hardware. Of course, we're doing major development activities with the lander and the spacesuits, which are, kind of separate from these things, but the Artemis III core stage will be delivered to the Cape. At least the top 4 fits will be delivered here in a few months. We put eyes on the seat command and service module at the ONC. They're in TVAC testing right now. They're ready to be joined. All we have to do is append the new heat shield, which we developed and is qualified and ready to go. So that production activity is occurring separate from the launch activity for Artemis II. However, if we do have learnings from Artemis II, obviously we'll have to cut that into the design. And so we're just we're just doing our normal business, but cranking out hardware for the subsequent flights as we proceed with this launch.